Visionaries, Creative's career journey and their life path with Aviva Martin.
Cool. Hey Lani, and welcome to today's show.
Hey Aviva, thanks for having me.
For sure. How's your Corona time been?
Oh, it's been good. Just been doing a lot of like designing and just self-care and just hanging out, making the best of it.
Awesome. It's good to hear. So first to get to know you a little bit better, what was it like for you growing up?
So I grew up in Colorado, actually. I have 3 sisters, and we were always just like playing and dancing and singing, and I was always like the really sporty one, so I was always just like outdoors doing sports and playing outside.
Awesome. And you now live in Hawaii, right?
Mhm.
Awesome. And what did you want to do when you grow up, when you were a kid?
Yeah, ironically, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cop. I was even in like the junior police academy, and I was gonna go to college for criminal justice. But then when I was like taking my prerequisites, I kind of just like had like a change of heart and decided that it wasn't really for me, and just kind of exploring different options and just being more of an artist. And that's what I love doing now is doing graphic design and performing and just like getting involved in my community of arts.
Awesome. Did you have any inspirations or mentors or anyone along the way that helped you transform into the profession you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly learning and just absorbing information from everyone. And I think what really launched this like kind of hobby turned career for me is the turning point was in when I was in college. I joined the Hawaii club because in Colorado it was cold, and I've always had an affinity for Hawaii. Like my family actually lives here on the Big Island, but we would come here every other year for vacation, and I just loved Hawaii, and I was always like, leave me here, I don't want to go back to the snow. And then so when I was in college, I joined the Hawaii club, and then we started learning hula dancing and doing Polynesian dancing. And then we had a luau every year, and so I performed in the luau. And one of the acts I really wanted to be in was the poi balls, which originated from the Maori people, which is in Aotearoa, or what we know as New Zealand. Um, and so I learned in the hula club to spin poi balls from Auntie Grace, and she gave me like my first set of like little plastic grocery bag with like felt on it, and then like the red, black, and white string, and taught me some things. And then I actually met a neighbor at a house party who had a pair of poi on his couch, and I was like, oh, are those poi balls? And it was just like, he's like, yeah, if you want to try them, like let's see what you got. And so I just kind of did like the little 3-beat weave that I knew, and he was like, oh wow, you actually kind of know what you're doing, like I could mentor you a little bit and like teach you some things. We live next to each other, so why don't we just like hang out and just like learn. And so I think that was the big launching point for me was my neighbor who just kind of got me into it.
Oh, wow. What a coincidence. How crazy.
Yeah.
And okay, so that was poi ball. And do you primarily do staff? What kind of spinning do you do?
I kind of do everything, and not just props, but I also try to include my actual like dancing into it, because I have like a like professional training in like hula, Chinese, Tahitian. I've been taking belly dancing classes, so I try to really incorporate more of like a whole show instead of just like spinning. But it's also like taking all the different props. So I love doing poi. I like dragon staff. I like staffs. I like fans. I do nunchucks, like everything, and they all have different styles, and they're so fun, and they each are just unique in their own way.
Do you have a favorite style of dancing and a favorite style of spinning?
Um, no, I kind of do a different thing for everyone. So like the fans, I do more like belly dance because it's very like hand motion. And then whenever I do like martial weapons, like the nunchuck or the rope dart, I like kind of like I look like I'm like a Street Fighter or like a Mortal Kombat character. And then when there was like dragon staff or contact dancing, it's like you have like this dance partner, so you're like you're like moving your body around it, you're like spinning it around your head and your shoulders and like your arms.
Yeah.
But I'd say I think my like true favorite one is the one that I started with, is so poi is the one that I began, and it's just so easy because you can just throw a pair of poi in your backpack and take them anywhere, whip them out anywhere, and it's just so diverse. You can do so much with them.
That's awesome. So, what were some of your first gigs?
Some of my first gigs were so I grew up doing Chinese dancing, and so we were like learning how, as a kid, we did like scarves and like silk fans and like ribbons and swords, and just like even our hands, like we were just like doing little like hand lotus hands and stuff. And so of course my first gigs were still in like the Chinese dance realm. Every Chinese New Year, we would do spring festivals, like autumn festivals, and we would just do the different styles. And it was just like a big performance, like lots of Chinese buffet food, and everyone's just like hanging out, having a good time. And then I started going to like flow jams where I would meet other spinners, and then we would just be flowing together, and then we would even like flow for each other. So we would like practice and then be like, okay, everybody, let's sit down and like let this person like go up and do their thing, so we could each like get practice performing for one another. And then I would just do little like random like showcases, or like if a friend had a birthday party, they're like, oh, you spin fire, like can you come spin at my party? And that was really fun.
I'm curious to hear, how long did it take from poi being without fire to poi being with fire? Like, which was the first one you put on fire, and how long did that take?
It's about a year. I always recommend people at least 1 year of practice before lighting it on fire. I mean, most people are like, I want to do it on fire right away, or even like that's the first time that they do it, which I don't really recommend, because I'm really into like fire safety also. But I would always say like a year. That's about how long it took me. And then just at least know what you're doing before you put it on fire, because it's super dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. We also don't promote usage of fire if you don't know what you're doing, only after you learn what you're doing, if anyone is watching and considering that now. Okay, so what was gaining experience for you like? Were you a natural performer, and did it kind of develop over time? Like, did you really, I'm assuming if you had such a diverse background in dancing and things like that, like you must be really connected to the world of performance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just getting more and more out there was like the type of gaining experience, is just connecting with other artists, finding out about events, and just practicing, and just like doing it more and more. Because the more you practice, the more you do it, the better you'll get. And so I've been doing it for coming up on 8 years now, at least like professionally, and since the first time I had like picked up the poi. So it's just in that span of time, I feel like I've grown so much. I've done so many different gigs. I've met so many people, and it's just been like a really fun journey.
Mm. What kind of processes do you go through in order to be a fire dancer and fire performer? Is it doing a lot of social media, marketing, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of everything. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that happen that a lot of people don't see. Like, say you're at a festival and you see a fire dancer, you're like, wow, like that's amazing. But how did they get there? You know, I've like have an Instagram, I've made a website, I've made like media kits, I've tried to do like promo shoots and make like promotional videos. I apply to so many different things. If I get the chance to be like, oh, this looks cool, maybe I'll apply to it, like this festival, and they have like a really extensive application that could take like hours, and they ask for like sample videos and pictures, and you already have to kind of have that, or you have to schedule a time to make that, to do it. So there's actually a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes into actually getting to a performance. And then you have to talk to the coordinators, like tell them exactly what you're doing, because they're not just going to like trust anyone to just be like, oh, you spin fire, okay, go for it, you know?
Yeah. Do you have to do a practice before the show itself?
Yeah, it could be like a stage check or a dress rehearsal or something.
Do you do in the dress rehearsal? Do you normally light it on fire out of curiosity?
Normally not. We'll practice. We'll run through it. Like the professional troupe I'm in, we just like it's called a site check. So we'll go on site, just make sure like the floor is not slippery. We have enough space. We let them know how far the audience has to be. Just kind of little things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. So would you practice every day to be in this profession, or would you practice every once in a while, or how much?
So I have a group that I'm in. We meet weekly just to like make sure we're refreshed, because we do choreography, so we want to make sure we're all like in sync and everything. And but me personally, I mean, I kind of just practice every day, whether it be just like stretching, or even if I'm just like standing there, I'll like just practice like doing motions like this, just to make sure like I can still like be fluid with it, you know? And like or just like, I don't know, just I like stretch my arms, or touch my toes, like practice the squats, because some moves you're like squatting in, and or just actually like take the time to be like, okay, I'm going to dedicate this 1 hour to like practice, just turn on all my favorite music and then go for it.
How fun. Oh, what a fun job. Wow.
But some days are lulls where I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed and just like eat or watch Netflix all day.
Yeah, not really vibing. Is it kind of similar to a workout? Is a lot of like body movement and things like that?
It's basically a full body workout.
Full body workout, huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, was it something that you got significantly better over time, like something like performing or anything in that realm?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you start to learn more after every show, like what you could have done differently and how you could have done it better. I think one of the things that I've learned over time, especially, is like audience interaction. So at first you're really shy and you don't want anyone to see you, but you're obviously everyone's looking at you because you're on fire. So you have to make eye contact, like be spatially aware. Just know that like your profile, like if I'm facing this way, like you can't really like see me, so I have to like know in my head that I have to like be facing towards you, and like the movements that I do, like if I'm going this way versus like if I'm going this way, you can't see what's going on. So also just
Sure.
connecting with the audience, like the thing that took me the longest time to learn was eye contact and like just like looking at different people, because that's what really like captures them and draws them in and like creates that personal connection with the show.
Yeah, definitely. Is it hard to do that if you're in the middle of spinning fire?
Yes, it's something you have to become aware of over time and with practice, because you're distracted as well. You're just like, I like don't want to burn myself. So
Yeah, I could imagine. What did you not expect about this line of work?
I think I just didn't really expect how far it would take me and like how much goes into it. At first it's like, oh, I'm just kind of performing, it's fun, but now it's like I kind of put so much effort into doing it full time. I'm constantly like looking for gigs, like reaching out to people, making connections.
Mhm. Would you say it's a community-oriented job or more like a solo act kind of thing?
It's both. I mean, definitely community, because that's how you get gigs. It's by networking and like reaching out to people and just like learning from each other and gathering people. Like, a show looks better when there's more people, but then sometimes you'll just do a solo gig where it's like it's just you got to get all the things you need. You have to think about all the different pieces, as opposed to when you have a group, everyone kind of takes a role and like, oh, this person will grab all this and like this person's in charge of this. So the community part is my favorite, is because like you have people you can relate to. If you have a move that you're like, I'm imagining it, but I can't do it, and like somebody else is like, oh, you're just trying to do this, and then they show it to you and they teach it to you, but um, that's like the coolest part. But then also there's moves that if you learn on your own, it creates a more unique style and like gives you your own different flow.
Gotcha. Um, so do you have any fun stories or anything cool from your career that you'd like to share with us?
Um, so one time I went to Thailand, and I usually will just carry my fire props with me wherever I travel, because there's fire spinners all over the world, and it's cool to like connect with different people around the world, and you never know who you're gonna meet up with. Like you could just be like walking and you see somebody spinning at a park and you're like, I need to go talk to him. Like you do the same thing I do. It's rare. You don't meet that many people who like are in this art. And so you'll like, oh, I'll just like pull out my thing, and then you guys just instantly can connect over that. And so when I travel, I'll just take my props with me, because maybe I'll like find a fire jam and I was in Thailand one time, and I had my props with me, and I was there with like a partner and who was also a performing artist. So we like always had all these like routines together. And then we went busking, so which is like just basically like street performing. And so we were in this like walking street in Thailand, and it was just like it was kind of like a Las Vegas strip kind of thing. And so we were like, this is the perfect place to perform, and like we'll do a show, and then we'll like put out a hat, and like people will give you donations. And we were spinning, and it started pouring rain on us, and it was like the most epic. Like we were in like the center of a lightning storm, and we were spinning fire, and
Oh,
like the whole street would normally be packed, but everyone was under like on the sides underneath all the hoods of the like bars and restaurants. So we were like, this is our time. Like this whole stage is open, and everyone's attention is looking inward. So we were like, all right, let's just spin some fire. And I think we did like a 10-minute show, which is like about 2 performances each, because each performance averages maybe like 2 to 5 minutes. depending on the prop, depends on how long it burns, because fire like will go out after a certain time. And so, yeah, we just did this like super epic show in the lightning and the rain, pouring rain, and everyone was like cheering for us, and like people were like running out of the restaurants to come like put money in our thing, and everyone, it was just like one of those like epic, like, oh, this is awesome, the elements are in our favor.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Um,
Amazing. How did you like do the fire thing in the rain? It just like stays throughout rain?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That one was in our favor. Yeah.
That's amazing. What's your highlight of your spinning career so far?
So this one was actually recently. It was in Mexico. It was for the Grateful Dead. If you know who the Grateful Dead is, they're a very like well-known group. And so they had a New Year's Eve show on Kauai. And so our performance troupe does a lot of Hawaiian islands. And so they hired us on Kauai to perform for their New Year's Eve. And they loved us so much that they wanted to take us down to Mexico on one of their tours. And it was called Playing in the Sand. And so they like brought our whole troupe down to Mexico, and we performed on this like massive stage at like their like halftime. And it was like with thousands of people at this like beautiful resort. And so that was just definitely one of those like, oh my God, this is one of those like, we made it. We're like living this like rock star life, and we got to like perform for all these people, and it was like recorded, and it was just like, people were messaging me like, I'm seeing you on TV, and it was one of those like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is real, but it was just like so epic. It's what we've been preparing for.
How amazing. Ah, is this on YouTube? Could I like actually find this?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I have a YouTube. It's just got a bunch of like random like fun videos I've made. My Instagram is at Lani Violet Flow, so that's my artist page.
Cool.
And then I have my normal page, which is like the weird stuff that is private. It's just my arts, which are like not performing. It's just like my daily things.
For sure. It's good to have like two separate ones, like the Lani of the real life and the Lani of the fire life.
Yeah, exactly.
How does fire spinning in a day of work actually look like?
It's honestly, it just varies. It's kind of what you make of it. Like I will book gigs, and then I'm like preparing for gigs, and sometimes there's not gigs, and I'm just like doing other things, and it's just totally random. The troupe I'm in is super awesome because our like manager, she does a lot of the communications with corporate events, so she gets a lot of gigs, so it's kind of easier for me that she just tells us to hold the date, and I'm like, cool, I'm ready. All I have to do is practice and like have the time off to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Why do you love fire spinning so much? And why do you love performing?
There's just like something about the art about it, like the element. There's like fire. It's like it's visual. Like you can see it. It's super bright. You can hear it. It's like whoosh, 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 whoosh. You can smell it. Like you can smell the fuel. Hopefully not like burnt hair or anything. I don't know if there's a taste to it really, but maybe you could like taste smells. But it's just like the element itself is just so powerful. There's something like so tribal about it, and like getting to share my arts too. Like whenever I like am performing for people, like getting to see the joy on their face and like their impression of being like, whoa, like that's a thing. Like you can do that, and just I think that makes it all worth it. Is just seeing people like appreciate it, because it's like I put so much time into it, and for them to appreciate it, I'm like, wow, like this is like so synchronous, and I'm happy that you're enjoying it.
Oh, it sounds incredibly gratifying. What are some sacrifices that this line of work requires you to make?
Definitely burns. I mean, that's a job hazard, but I get less burns than cooks in a kitchen. I'd say the worst burn I've ever gotten was like maybe this one right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Is that from poi or from something else?
The hula hoop. The hula hoop will burn you the most.
Okay, so hula hoop is the dangerous one. Gotcha.
That's the funnest. It's very fun, but the fire one's a little scary. Irregular sleep hours. I mean, I'm kind of just like a night owl anyways, and so just spinning during the night is a little bit more of like a peaceful time for me. And I guess the other sacrifice is like my schedule. So like if a gig books, it's not like I can choose when it is. It's dependent on when it is. And so if I have like scheduling issues, that's kind of the hardest thing, is like sacrificing my time just to like pursue the gigs that I want.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes a good fire spinning show?
Man, there's a lot of different elements to that. So costume, you know, if you look interesting, people are like, wait, what's going on? And it like adds to it. Like you can dress like a circus, so you like have this circus, it creates the vibe. You can do like tribal, so you look like you're very tribal. You can just like if I showed up in like a tuxedo and fire, I mean, it's also like what's going on? It kind of creates the mood whenever, depending on what you're wearing. So does the music. You know, you can do something very upbeat. You could do something very like slow and meaningful. Your background, so you can have, if you have like a dumpster behind you, people are gonna be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of weird. But if you're like on this like stage, or if you have like a nice background behind you, like you can, it kind of creates something different. And then also like your stage presence. Like I was going back to interacting with the audience. You know, if I was just on stage and like just like looking uncomfortable, then everyone in the audience is going to be uncomfortable. But if I'm out there like feeling it, like, you know, people feel off of each other's energies. And so like I'm just creating the entire atmosphere, and that's what creates a good show.
Yeah, definitely. What was the highlight or several of your career so far?
One of my favorites is actually like creating the community and like being a leader in the community. So I helped lead a group of people to Burning Man. I've done it 4 years. And so just getting together people who are experienced or even brand new, and like giving them the opportunity to like have a show. Because some people have never done any sort of organized dance in their life, and then trying to teach them choreography and then maybe new moves if they're like a more beginner spinner is also just like super rewarding. And like just to like go through the journey and then get to the show is just like so epic.
Oh, wow. What advice would you have given to a younger spinning Lani at the beginning of her ways?
Yeah, I would say just keep it up, because, you know, just keep practicing, exploring your creativity, because like it's gonna take you pretty far. It's gonna bring you to cool places. It's gonna introduce you to like really amazing people like you. I wouldn't be here, you know, if I hadn't have gone through all of this to meet you.
It's true. This is true. What is a bad piece of advice you've gotten, or something that someone told you that would happen that never did?
A lot of like, you're gonna burn something down if you do it, you know? And so it's like, no, like I haven't had any serious accidents, knock on wood, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and some people are like, you know, like maybe you should just like get a real job, or like do like a career. And I was like, you know, I want to be an artist. This is what I'm passionate about, and I want to like share my art and get other people involved, because like this is such a special thing. And once you actually do it yourself, you like are like, wow, like people get like drawn in by the fire.
That's amazing. So cool. Really. What does working smart and hard in this industry look like?
I would say a lot of like networking, maintaining good relationships with everybody, constantly reaching out, looking for gigs, finding creative ways to get gigs, being reliable, I think, is the number one thing too. Is if people book you for a gig and you don't show up, or you like take their money and like never do it, or just like don't deliver something quality, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's working smart is just like bringing something amazing and like not falling short of what your true potential is.
Wow. Okay, so this is the fire round portion of the interview. So we're moving on to questions that have to do a little bit less with spinning and more about perception and creativity. So the first question is, if you lived in caveman times or cavewoman times, and you had a role in the tribe, what would your role be?
Fire Lord, obviously. I would tend to the fire, you know, because in the tribe, you got to keep the fire going. That's how you cook food. That's how you keep warm. So even when I go camping, I'm like, I am the Fire Lord. Like, I will always like be fanning it and like putting Kindle on and adding more wood and just making sure it stays going so we have something throughout the night.
Do you think like your connection to fire as an element has grown a lot more because of this profession?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always kind of been a little bit of a pyro, like as a kid, like playing with like isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol in fires, and but I feel like really actually like learning how to control it has impacted me a lot. I'm a double water sign, so I'm naturally very like fluid, and so to like take on the fire and like take it on as an element that's like completely opposite to me and learn how to tame it is like something super powerful.
Oh, wow. What is your favorite song to spin to?
That's a hard one because, you know, I love all songs. I love the really like feelsy ones where you're like into it and you're like jamming. But then I also like the really like upbeat ones where you're just like, okay, like let's do this. But if you like put me on the spot like you are now, I had to like just be like one song that I choose to, or if someone was like perform, pick a song on YouTube right now, it's ready. I'd say my song, usually my go-to would be Light It Up by Major Lazer. It's a little upbeat and it talks about like fire, so like it's perfect.
That is perfect. If you were to take a course from one person in any topic that you would choose, what would it be and from who?
I think Beyonce. She has such amazing shows, and if I could just like ask her like how she coordinates, like even just the behind the scenes stuff she does, and like to prepare and like all of that, like she's a powerful woman, and I'd be like, wow, how do you do it? I think that'd be amazing.
Would be. She's phenomenal. Best trip you've ever taken for spinning or in general?
I love Mexico for some reason. It's just like every time I go down there, it's very like I feel like there's like a core to this like fire down there. And a couple of years ago, I went to Mexico with some friends, and same thing. We ended up meeting fire spinners. We actually met them at the gas station because on top of their car was all their fire props. They had like a dragon staff and like 5 staffs and this giant fire star. Like it was like a fuego estrella. So it was just like a giant 6-point star where all of the points were fire, and he spun it like a staff, and it was like a flaming star. And we were like, we need to be your friend. And so we like connected and like met these awesome fire spinners down there who are like still my really good friends now. And like anytime I go down to Mexico, I'll like hit them up, and like sometimes they perform professionally down there at all the resorts. And so sometimes I even get to like go do shows down there with them.
How awesome. Wow. Favorite gig that you would want to relive?
I think in 2018, we had a New Year's Eve gig. New Year's Eve is always my favorite gig. It's like that's like our #1 gig day, because it's, you know, it's epic. Everyone's celebrating. They want fire. There's fireworks. There's music and all this. And so we had a gig on Oahu at Turtle Bay, which is like this big resort on the North Shore. And yeah, we were on like 10 minutes till midnight, and then right at the end of our show, we had like this epic finale with like 6 dancers. And then right as we finished, we were like holding our pose. And then there was we were on the water too. So there was like a huge bay behind us. And at the end of the bay, they launched off like this massive fireworks show. So we were like spinning. We had glitter, which is like sparkly fire. Basically, we put like this shaved powder on there, which made our fire like sparkle. And so we're like performing and everyone's stoked. And as soon as we finished with our finale, the fireworks just started like blasting off behind us. And that was one of those like, wow, like.
That's amazing. Oh my God, your job is so cool. A random person on the street gives you $1 million. What is the first thing you'd buy?
I'd probably, well, actually, $1 million you'd think is like a giant briefcase too. You'd be like, oh, that's a briefcase of money, but sometimes it's only like a stack, you know, like a couple hundreds. Even so, I'm like, oh, $100 in ones is just like a small stack. But if someone was like, here's $1 million in like an envelope or something, I'd pay back my debt, my family's debt. I would donate money, and then like to arts, to anything, to like different causes I believe in. And then I would also want to just throw like a huge party with all my friends, family, and then I would just definitely like save some.
Would you spin at the party?
Oh hell, it would just be a giant show. Basically, I would like book all my favorite artists, get all my friends to like perform on a big stage.
Ah, sounds lit. What would your ideal bumper sticker say?
Drive with aloha. I mean, in Hawaii, everyone like throws out the shaka. Like, if you need to get across 6 lanes of traffic, you just like roll your window down, shaka, and then like head out. So yeah, just drive with aloha.
What is your favorite word?
Ergonomic.
Why?
I don't know, it just sounds kind of funny, and it like means something like, oh, that over there is very ergonomic because it's multifunctional, you know?
Huh, cool. What is your least favorite word?
Moist.
So this is like a very not liked word. Why?
I don't know. I think it's just like the thing you make with your mouth, and then like what the words that you would associate moist to, like moist socks, right? Moist underwear. Like when you're like, oh, it's so moist out, you're like sweaty and uncomfortable and like clammy, you know.
Gotcha.
Unless it's like moist cake. I like moist cake. But
Oh, moist cake is good.
moist everything
chocolate.
else is like, yeah.
Yeah. So there's an exception there. What's your favorite curse word?
I like the F word. I kind of use it a lot. It's not very ladylike, but you know, it just gets the point across.
Are you more a morning person or a night person?
Night for sure, because there's just something that's so like peaceful about the nighttime. Everyone's asleep, like it's cooler, and it's kind of like dark out, so it's something so peaceful about it. I like to stay up. I have a hard time waking up in the morning. I was born at 3 a.m., so I think that maybe has to do with me being a night owl.
Wow.
What time were you born?
I think I was born at like 3 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah. Interesting. I actually never thought of that. Interesting point.
Right.
Who can always make you laugh?
My sister, for sure. Her name's Larry. She's named after my dad, who's also named Larry. They're both of them together are actually hilarious. He's like so cool that he named his daughter after himself, and she just like owned it. And she's a comedian. Her boyfriend's a comedian. She's just
No
so
way. Really?
yeah.
In Colorado?
Yeah. She just moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, but she's from Colorado. Yeah.
Good for her. Oh my God. I never find myself meeting female comedians, so that's amazing. Good for her. What recharges you?
Movement. So stretching, doing yoga, dancing, you know, you just feel, your body just feels better, and then it like lifts your mood.
Gotcha.
And smoothies. I like smoothies a lot.
On the other side of the spectrum. What's your favorite flavor of bubblegum?
I like sweet mint.
Cool. What is the first thing you do in the morning?
Stretch. So it just kind of starts your day. Even just in bed, I'll just
Stretches? Gotcha. Like just chilling down. What is it that you love that brings you good memories?
A smell? I'd say, so when I was a kid, my neighbor growing up, we were all just best friends. Her name was April. She had this perfume. I think it was called like Bambi or something, but I just remember that smell so well. And every time I think about it, I just like, or smell something similar, I just always think back to that, and it just like brings me like good memories of like great times hanging out with her and like my sisters. We were all best friends.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. What is something you always feel accomplished after?
Workouts, especially when they like kick your butt. You're just like, it hurts so good.
Yeah, definitely. If you would have a motto you'd like to live your days by currently, or a quote that you admire, what would it be?
I guess just keep on keeping on, you know. Anything that happens, you just got to get over it and just keep moving forward. Or even if something's good, you know, it's great, live in the moment, appreciate it, but then also just like keep on keeping on.
True. What is a day not complete without?
I have to clean something. I'm a little OCD, so it's like if something's dirty, or I like feel like I have to like put something away, at least to feel good about the day.
Gotcha. And what is your next dream? Last question.
So I'm getting into my 30s, and so I'm like, you know, I love performing, and that's just why I kind of like put a lot of my time into it now, is like while I'm younger, I have the freedom, before I like settle down, like, you know, I eventually do want to like have a family, and I'm so hustling right now that I haven't really quite settled, and so I know that that's something eventually that I'll want. Just I'm right now just living in the moment and taking it day by day.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lani, for coming on the show. This was an amazing interview.
Thank you. I had so much fun. You're the best.
Love you.